What was your people a disgusting realization moment? I got on the bus a few weeks ago. When I went to sit down, there was this 2-foot long turd on the floor next to where I was going to sit. I was mildly impressed and grossed out. The old never-ending story. I have only achieved such a crap once in my life when I was really constipated one time and my body finally decided enough was enough. There was screaming involved during the ordeal. At the height of the pandemic, I was in a shop and saw a man sneeze in his hand and then wipe it on the shop conveyor belt. I had a pretty low opinion of people before that, but that really destroyed what was left of my faith in humans. I'm a very calm, non-confrontational person, but there are moments that I wish with every fiber of my being that it was socially acceptable to punch a person directly in the face. In the Navy, enlisted folks clean the toilets on the regular. Depending on the ship and location, they get real disgusting even at the best of times. Some dirty frick ate SpaghettiOs while he was taking a crap and left the can and spoon on the toilet paper rack. People are irredeemably disgusting. Last month, our manager walked into the hallway leading to the break room only to find a customer with their pants around their ankles crapping in the garbage can. A garbage can is like the 4th best thing to crap into. Your manager should consider themselves lucky. As a former paramedic, first time I went to a very well-known frequent flyer female patient who I had not yet had the misfortune of attending, who proceeded to reach into the skirt, pull her tampon out and throw it at my face. Thank God for years of video game reflexes. I helped place an IV while another nurse swabbed the infant for STDs. Everything from the belly button down was one gigantic, swollen, bruised mess. Oh God. Have you ever seen a gym shower absolutely covered in smears of crap, literal handprints and finger trails of human excrement, from the floor to the ceiling? Like someone had a fight with a poop monster and lost? Because I wish I hadn't. Janitor at psychiatric hospital. I deal with that almost every day. People are nasty. It's worst when they don't take antipsychotics. Patient with an anal abscess that he got shaving his butthole a couple hours before a 45-day field exercise in the New Mexican desert. He hadn't showered or even attempted basic hygiene. His whole body already smelled like a barrel of fermenting jock straps, and he was face down with his rotten butthole stuck up in the air. PA lanced it and it burst outward, splattering rotten butt pus, or rotten butt pus, take it how you will, all over the other medic, who promptly vomited all over the floor and my boots. I did not vomit, but I forgot every word but frick for the next 10 minutes. I have been severely grossed out by people since then and left the military to do a series of plant science degrees. Plants don't have anuses. Smart. Years back when my boss and I were sitting in the office in silence, both on our phones, he turns his phone to me and says, "That's a fat freaking pee, isn't it?" Dude was watching pee at work. I work retail, and a few months ago some teenage boys trashed the men's restroom. They left a few movies stolen from the nearby Walmart on the floor, dumped every paper towel into the toilet's urinal, and got either toilet water, urine, or both all over the floor. Found out that a teacher, around his 50s, from the small village my mother grew up in, is in an open relationship with a 12-year-old. The relationship started when the girl was 9 and her mother goes around telling everyone her daughter took her man. Everyone's horrible. Somebody needs to save that child. At the grocery store, middle-aged lady opened all the rotisserie chickens that are sitting under heat lamps, touched them all, then picked one that was to her liking and left. Just last month I saw some older lady in the produce section sampling the fresh herbs. She would take a small piece of cilantro, stick it in her fingers and her mouth. Then she proceeded to do it to multiple bundles until she found the one she wanted and put her mask back on and walked away. I told my wife I was going to skip the cilantro when making tacos this time. I was working for U-Haul a few years ago and some drug addicts stole one of our vans. When we finally got the van back, it was completely trashed with dirty clothes, rotting food, unidentified gunk, and other gross crap all through the van. Guess who had to clean it up? Sounds like Dirty Mike and the boys might have enjoyed a night in it. 2 instances. I made $9 an hour working at a wholesale store. The amount of human crap I've seen and dealt with there was unreal. Someone crap in a cup and put it next to the toilet. Another person smeared crap all over the walls and sink. Another crap in front of the toilet. Another crap on the floor in the middle of an aisle. I did not make nearly enough money to deal with that. Literal crap. The second was when I was working at a convenience store. It was near closing. I was tired. A 40-something dude comes in, asks how I am. I say in a good-natured fashion, better in about a half hour when I can finally sit down. His response, I've got a spot on my face you could sit on. I was 19 and that pretty much ruined people for me. Frick customer facing jobs. I was about 12 and went with my friend to babysit a friend of her parents' baby. That was the single most disgusting house I've ever been in. There was literally no clean surface in the house. You could see the lice crawling around on the baby's head. Baby was around a year old. Literally every dirty diaper that baby had ever used was stacked in their kitchen. The pile was so tall it reached the ceiling and blocked the sink and fridge. The baby's bottles were never cleaned. They just dumped and refilled them. Cockroaches everywhere. We ended up calling my friend's mom, finding the cleanest blanket we could, wrapped the naked except for a diaper baby up. We couldn't find any clothes, and stood outside until her mom came back to pick us up. It was also late fall and there was no heat in the house. Her mom had no idea the condition of the house as she hadn't been inside it since before the baby had been born. She took us back to her house, cleaned up the baby, treated us for lice, and called the police. I had never seen her mom angry before. I really thought she was going to knock that woman's teeth in. Thankfully the woman decided not to fight CPS for the baby and ended signing over her rights as soon as CPS took the baby. I know now that people live in all sorts of conditions they shouldn't, but I still find it absolutely appalling 20-ish years later. It's one thing to imagine what that kind of house would look like, but to actually see it, FFS. This one not only lets me say ew, but also I want to punch these people so hard. I work in healthcare, doing lab testing. One of my first days doing STD testing we had a 3-year-old test positive for GCCT. Both of them, and we retested them at least twice to confirm. Contracting both at birth is possible, but doubtful. It was definitely a case of abuse. I don't think I could concentrate at work for hours after resulting that out. Me and my friend would pretend to be teenage girls on chat sites just to troll other boys in teenager chat sites like Mocha Space. The messages we got from grown adults were stammering. A lot of them would admit to things like being married and wanting to leave their wife and kids behind to run away with us. A lot of them would also have fantasies about rape and torture. Keep in mind we were a couple of 13-year-old boys pretending to be 13-year-old girls. I can tell you this much I've learned. Goatees are a huge red flag. I'd say about 90% of these men would have a goatee. I'm 27 now and I still look at people and think of what they're like underneath the surface. Janitor for 7 years. For being in a truck stop, especially taking care OPF truck stop outdoor trashes, shit bags and pee bottles. Not pleasant. I was in grade 3. The elementary school I went to was an even demographic split. On one side you had the Anglo kids, whose families were in Canada for generations, and on the other you had the immigrant kids who were second generation. We were constantly picked on and treated poorly by the white kids, but we dealt with it. One day this Greek kid named Gus shows up to school with some incredibly detailed plasticine sculptures of dragons and people that were so incredibly well done that the teacher did not believe that he had made them. When he proved it, by making another one during class, the teacher actually called the office and the principal and VP came up to class to see them. For those 4 hours Gus was a celebrity and teachers from other classes and grades were showing up to see them. Yes, they were that good. All was well until the afternoon recess. Gus and I were in the playground looking at his dragon when a group of Anglo kids approached us and started laying into Gus. The poor guy was just getting the crap kicked out of him by 4 kids and all he was concerned is that they not break his sculpture. He was trying desperately to pass the dragon and he was holding onto Timmy to keep it safe, but one of the bigger kids grabbed it and ripped it to pieces while they all laughed. Gus was just laying there on the ground bleeding and crying. He wasn't crying as a result of the beating. All he kept saying is "I worked so hard on this" in his slight Greek accent as he got up and stated, gathering pieces of plasticine from the ground. Those words just sliced right through me, and 43 years later when I think about it I still tear up. This was the exact moment that I realized how cruel and disgusting people could be. That just breaks my heart. I hope Gus is doing okay now. My best friend since 3rd grade won a trip to NYC off of some guitar tablature website advertisement. The kind you'd think is just spam. We both had just recently turned 21, and it was this incredible opportunity for us to have an all-paid adventure together. While walking on the sidewalk through the city one afternoon, we passed by this tall, pretty, runway model type lady walking the opposite way. We hadn't been aware of it, but there were 2 guys behind us that were going our same direction. They looked like they probably worked in finance or something. When the lady walked past them, one of the 2 guys said, "It'd take both of us to climb that mountain," really loudly with the intention of being heard. The lady looked totally disgusted and hurt, and just continued on her way. She had looked normal and happy before, and afterward her expression had totally darkened. It was the first time I'd seen adults be that callous toward other adults, and it sort of rocked both my and my friends' perceptions of how women are casually treated like objects. Neither of us are that kind of person, and none of the guys in our long-standing friends group have that sort of attitude or demeanor. It was appalling and I still remember it very clearly years later. I feel horrible that people have to go through that on a regular basis. Went to an appointment and saw what a previous contractor had done to flip a home. Did everything the cheapest way and easiest, basically screwing the next homeowner to the point where they're paying a lot more now to fix all issues. Just showed me how much money matters to some and the safety and well-being of others doesn't. That's the standard assumption in a construction trades. Make your money by estimating high and spending on cheap crap or change orders after the work is half done. Yesterday, I took the regional bus between 2 larger cities 4 hours away. A family consisting of a mother, father and child sat on the other side of the bus from me. 3 hours into the trip the child had to urinate. Instead of going to the well-functioning toilet, the mom finds a bag, puts a diaper into it and asks the child to pee into it. A meter away from me, when the father later returned, the mom seemed proud of her creativity and the smell. Picture it. Fashion bug. 2005. I'm a young assistant manager, making crap money and just trying to make it to closing. I start refolding Henleys and discover a bloody, snotty paper towel shoved between the shirts. Frick people. Frick society. When my friend, 17F, got to school and immediately had to go to the bathroom and wash off semen from her shirt because a man on the subway had thrown it after jerking off while looking at her on a crowded subway car. Late night at a music festival. One look into a porta potty and you will see the true vile nature of human beings. Actually, doesn't even need to be late night. Somehow these animals are able to destroy them on day 1. Overflowing, on the ceiling and walls. Yup, went to a few Glastonburys in the 1990s when there were still the large communal pit toilets and they were indescribably gross. The smell. Serving in the military. Boot camp itself is like a petri dish for germs, but the real disgusting bit was when I got stationed on a destroyer. It was common for the shitter to back up due to people clogging up the pipes, so it wasn't an uncommon sight to see crap water sloshing around the bathroom. I remember a few times seeing that, and basically noping the frick out only to come back 30 minutes later seeing the crap water cleaned up but the floor still wet and some nasty butt sailor standing there brushing his teeth barefoot on the floor. I guarantee you that floor was not disinfected or sanitized. Other times I'd see guys coming out of the shower barefoot. We are supposed to be wearing shower shoes to prevent the spread of foot fungus, which itself is disgusting because a lot of the times the shower mats inside the showers had black mold growing on them. This last one takes the cake though. There was this sailor in my division. Ironically, he is from the same state as me and actually lives about 30 minutes away from me now. I've since been separated for over 10 years now, but occasionally hear about him through his sister who I am friends with. It's mostly how he wants to kick my butt for whatever reason because he's incapable of growing up. Anyways, this sailor didn't like to take showers and was one of those hard-working rednecks, so he was constantly sweaty. So not taking a shower, in addition to beating the one-eyed snake a lot in his rack and leaving his happy sock under his pillow, was pretty disgusting. He'd refuse to make his bed when he got up, expecting the bathroom cleaners to make it. When you opened the curtains you were just hit with this god-awful stench of crap I can't even begin to describe. It makes me nauseous just thinking about it. In addition to that, his white sheets were freaking yellow. I don't want to know if it was yellow due to his happy sauce or skin oils, but it was disgusting. It got to the point where we refused to touch his rack and would call him off watch to make it, and even started writing him up when he kept forgetting to make his bed or at least tidy it up. Shitbird, a nickname a chief gave him. In the small chance you are reading this, you were probably still are freaking disgusting, and I hope your hygiene habits improved since then. This made me actually gag. Saw someone take a crap walk to the sink, check themselves out in the mirror, then just leave without washing their hands. Nasty bastard. When I was maybe 9 years old, I went to my first pro football game. I went to the bathroom, and as soon as I walked in I locked eyes with a guy crapping in a urinal. He just smiled. I ran out and held my pee until after the game. A few years ago there was just one poorly ventilated ladies' room with only one bathroom stall on the floor where I work. One day I had to pay a visit and it already smelled like crap a few meters before reaching the restroom. Okay, I thought. Some piggy took a big fat monster crap of doom and didn't close the restroom door. Well, I was almost bursting, so I covered my nose with my t-shirt, ready to hold my breath and relieve myself as fast as possible. I went into reverse as soon as I had a first look into the bathroom stall. Inside everything was speckled with crap. Not oops. Misfired torpedo like speckled. Gross enough. Big crap happens. LOL. It looked like someone pirouetted while having a liquid high pressure fart. Crap on the toilet seat. Crap on the walls. Crap on the door. Crap on the trash bin. Everywhere except the ceiling. Suddenly I've had enough power to press my butt cheeks together a little longer and speed to the restroom on the next floor. God, I was so ashamed, and still am, thinking of the cleaning personnel. I worked at an airport for 10 years. Sometimes the cab drivers would come in to use the bathroom and wash their feet. That's different than I'm used to, but fine by me, except they'd dry their feet in the Dyson blade meant for drying your hands. One of my co-workers once walked past a stall and saw that a guy was crouching down with his bare butt out so he could get the TP real nice and eat like. People leave dirty diapers in rental cars. For a few months last year, I cleaned rental cars. Normally was a rental agent. There were two guys that worked there that loved finding snacks in cars. Didn't matter if the package had been opened. I saw both of them eating bags of chips that had been like 3/4 eaten already. Remember, we were cleaning out all sorts of nastiness from these cars and wiping them down with chemicals. These guys would be eating strangers' leftovers with their nasty gloves still on as they sprayed down the car. During a pandemic. I know I have more stories, but those are the ones coming to mind right now. When I was 10 and started understanding that the grown men who continuously talked to me, stared at me and attempted to follow me and my mother around weren't trying to be friendly or become my friend. They were grown adults trying to hit on a 10-year-old child and blatantly eyeing me up. It was always worse when my mom and I went anywhere after school, because if I was wearing my school uniform, they'd try to look up my skirt or blatantly stare at my butt if we went anywhere after my ballet class while I was still in my leotard. That kind of attention never stopped, but it was a special kind of fricked up to realize it was happening when I was literally prepubescent. Those men who did that back then and the ones who continue to follow and harass me to this day are all disgusting. On a lighter note, I gain that people are disgusting twinge every time I see people spitting everywhere outside, people littering, people putting their hands down their pants in public, especially if they sniff their hands after, people not washing their hands after using the bathroom, people pulling their masks down to cough or sneeze, etc. My idiotic friend found a shrew hiding in a knot of a tree while we were walking around the park. He then tries to kill it with a stick and rock. I managed to get him away for the shrew to run, but my friend ran after it and squished it. Turns out it was pregnant. I had a new one of those at least once a week when I worked in retail. One of the more memorable ones was when I was working at Radio Shack about 10 years ago, and this guy just starts humping his girlfriend's butt against the cell phone display. I work in government health and a guy was pee off about something. Wait times I think. So he went to each health center and spread his crap on all the elevator buttons. threw it on the ceiling, just put it everywhere. When he was caught, it was found he'd been storing his crap in plastic bottles mixed with water just to crap bomb the health centers and hospital. What's also gross is that they didn't clean it up well in some areas, just sort of scraped it off the ceiling but left the big brown spot. Well, the pandemic made me realize how disgusting PPL are. I live in India, which as you might know was hit very badly by the second wave. Not only our govt refused to acknowledge the gravity of the situation, it actively fudged numbers and tried to paint a better picture. Almost everyone from top to bottom was trying to make money off this calamity. Incredibly inflated prices for treatments in all hospitals. They were charging 5 to 10 times the normal charges. The govt pretty much turned a blind eye to this in many states. They just gave some guidelines but took no action to implement them. The result being PPL lost their entire life savings and sold many things they owned trying to save their loved one's life. I am one of them. We took on huge debts trying to save my dad's life. Lost him too. Well, no one cares. Everyone was trying to make a buck. The pharmacies who were selling essential COVID meds for inflated prices. People in pharma industry who were able to get hands on remdesivir injections were selling them for 10 to 20 times its price. Not only this, some were reusing the vials and selling fake remdesivir. Everything from COVID meds, oxygen cylinders, ambulance rides, medical treatment was sold at hugely inflated prices with no strong action from the govt. Well, what can the govt do when a majority of your population is morally corrupt and willing to take advantage of a calamity? That's the day I realize most PPL are disgusting. This breaks my heart. My condolences. Watched a lady at work, retail, stick her hand down the back of her pants, try a lotion on, then smell her hands. I bleach won't delete that image. My ex-girlfriend once showed me the messages she receives on a daily basis. It led me to one basic question. What the frick is wrong with guys? Outwardly, you'll look and act normal. Behind a keyboard, you send dong pics, solicit threesomes, ask for nudes, hit on taken chicks etc. Like holy fricking crap. You're like uncontrollable rabbit horn dogs. I've never done any of this crap. I'd be embarrassed to cold approach a chick on Facebook to ask for nudes or sex. When I worked in corrections, it was announced during briefing one day by a supervisor that one of the dorms was on hunger strike. An officer blurted out, "Good, let him starve to death," and men in the room laughed and some gave him high fives. The supervisor, who is supposed to keep things professional, so instead added, "Dorm officer's name. Feel free to write that we offered them food and they refused if they start to annoy you today." An entire shift of officers were willing to purposefully lie on paperwork to force those on hunger strike to not even be given the option to end it. Myself and 2 medical officers went to talk to the dorm reps. Found out the reason they were on strike is because the dorm hadn't been allowed onto the yard for over a week because the dorm officers simply wouldn't open the door for them. We contacted the captain, our boss's boss's boss, and told him that we were willing to stay an extra hour for voluntary OT to let them go on yard and thus give them reason to end the strike. The captain said, "Why would you want to help those buttholes? We did it anyway because as medical officers, and more importantly as human beings that aren't freaking monsters, we wanted to give these guys a chance to get outside and a reason to finally partake in a meal." So, the strike ended. But I won't ever forget the fact that multiple officials, of multiple ranks, and over multiple days not only made no effort to help solve the problem, but that many of them actively were seeking to worsen it for the sake of LOL because we can. A lot of people seem to forget that an officer's number one function in corrections is to ensure the safety and security of the facility and all persons located within, not just the people you like. If you are new to the channel, you can subscribe. I publish new videos every day. Until then, check another video. Bye for now.